The large house at the edge of the city stood silent most days. Though it had many rooms, only 3 people lived there: a rich man, his 2 young daughters, and a few quiet staff. The man was known by many. He had power, money, and influence. But inside, he was just a father who had lost his wife too early and now guarded his daughters with his whole heart. He didn't let many people near them. Every new person had to go through checks, interviews, and even background investigations. He believed no one could be trusted, especially not strangers. Especially not after everything he had gone through. One day, the old housekeeper left suddenly due to illness. The man needed someone to look after the home, cook meals, and help with the girls, but not just anyone. He wanted someone quiet, simple, and clean in every way. After weeks of searching, one name came up again and again through recommendations. Young woman, quiet and hardworking. Everyone said she did her work without any trouble, never asked for more, and never crossed any lines. He finally agreed to meet her. She arrived at the door one morning, dressed in simple clothes, eyes low, and hands folded. She looked nervous. Her clothes were neat but old. Her shoes were slightly worn. She didn't speak much. She only nodded and softly answered when asked. He didn't like her silence at first, but she looked honest. After hours of thinking, he finally said she could work, but only for 1 week. If anything felt wrong, she'd have to leave. The woman began work the next morning. She cleaned the floors quietly, cooked basic meals, and made no noise. She didn't use her phone in front of the kids, didn't try to start conversations, and never went into rooms without permission. Slowly, the 2 little girls started noticing her. They watched her from the stairs as she folded laundry. They peeked from the hallway when she made tea. She didn't smile much, but her voice was soft when she spoke. She started telling them bedtime stories. Not every night, only when they asked. Days passed. The daughters began asking for her. They wanted her to braid their hair, help them with schoolwork, or just sit nearby. The man noticed. At first he felt happy. The girls hadn't smiled like this in a while. But then a strange worry began to grow in his chest. He began watching. She was always careful around him, too careful. She didn't look into his eyes, always kept her sleeves long, and jumped slightly whenever he raised his voice to the staff. Something about her didn't sit right. He decided to check her background himself. He called someone he trusted and asked for a full report on her. He told them to find everything: where she was born, where she had worked, who her parents were, everything. While waiting for the report, one small moment shook him. It was late evening. He came home early and walked quietly through the house. That's when he heard laughter. The kind of pure, warm laughter he hadn't heard in years. He followed the sound to the garden. His daughters were playing a game with the housekeeper, giggling and running around her. She smiled, lifted one of them in her arms, and spun her around. His heart beat faster, not in joy, but fear. What was she doing? Getting this close to them? Was it fake? Was she trying to get inside their lives for some reason? He stepped forward. She noticed him and immediately placed the child down. Her face changed, calm, quiet, distant again. She bowed her head and stepped away. The next day, the background check arrived. Most of it was clean, but some parts were missing. No clear family name. No information about her early life. The orphanage she came from had closed years ago, and no official documents could be found from before she turned 18. The man felt cold. What was she hiding? That night, something unexpected happened. One of the girls ran to him. She was worried. "She's crying, Daddy," she whispered, in the kitchen. He walked down and found the housekeeper sitting on the floor, a photo in her hand. She didn't notice him right away. She held the photo like it meant the world. He stepped forward. "What is that?" he asked, sharply. She stood up quickly, wiped her tears, and lowered her head. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to touch anything. I was just cleaning the shelf and found this photo." He took the photo and froze. It was an old family photo. His wife, his daughters when they were babies. And his face went pale. Another child. A little girl he didn't recognize, in the corner. Looking directly at the camera, the housekeeper's eyes met his. And in that quiet moment, something deep and heavy hung in the air, but he said nothing. Not yet, because part of him already knew this wasn't going to be a simple story anymore. The photo stayed in his hand even after the housekeeper left the room. His fingers tightened around the edge of the picture, but his eyes remained stuck on one face. That little girl in the corner, he didn't know her, yet something about her eyes felt strange. Almost familiar. His heart beat faster, and a strange heat filled his chest. He put the photo back in the drawer, locked it, and went upstairs to his room. That night, he couldn't sleep. The face of the girl kept flashing in his mind. Then, his thoughts shifted to the housekeeper, how she held the photo, how she cried while looking at it. Why? What connection did she have to his late wife? The next day, he stayed home from work. He told the rest of the staff to take the day off too. He wanted to be alone with her, to talk without anyone around. He waited until his daughters were playing in their room, then called her into the study. She walked in quietly, hands folded in front of her, eyes looking down. He asked her to sit. She didn't. "I want the truth," he said. She said nothing. He took a deep breath and pulled out the photo again. "Who is this girl?" he asked, pointing to the child in the corner. She looked at it. Then she looked at him. And for the first time since she entered his house, she spoke clearly. "That's me." His heart dropped. "What? That photo was taken the last day I saw her. Your wife, she was my mother." The room went completely silent. He stood up fast, his chair pushing back. "What are you saying?" His voice cracked with anger and confusion. "My wife never told me anything about another child." The housekeeper kept standing. Her eyes were wet but strong. "She gave me up when I was very small. She had no choice. She was very young then, scared, and alone. I ended up in an orphanage. Years later she visited once. She gave me that photo and told me she got married. She had to leave and never come back." He stared at her, unable to speak. "I never saw her again after that," she continued, voice shaking. "But I kept the photo, and I kept the memory after she passed away. I looked for this place. I only wanted to see where she lived, what kind of life she had, what kind of family she had, what kind of children she had now." He felt dizzy. "You're lying. I'm not. If what you say is true, why didn't you say anything?" "When you came here," she hesitated, then said, "Because I didn't come to be part of the family. I didn't come to ask for anything. I came to work. I just wanted to be close, just a little. That's all." He clenched his fists. "You got close to my daughters. They came to me. I never tried to replace anyone. I never tried to step into your wife's place. I only helped when they needed help." His voice rose again, sharp like a knife. "Stay away from my daughters." She didn't move, but her lips moved slowly. "They are my sisters." He stepped back, stunned. She lowered her eyes again and said, "I'll leave. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I never wanted to cause pain." He didn't respond. Couldn't. She turned to walk away, but as she reached the door, one of the daughters suddenly walked in. "Are you leaving?" the little girl asked softly. The housekeeper smiled gently and bent down. "Just for a little while." The girl hugged her tightly. "Don't go, you make the best stories." The man watched silently. His heart felt torn in two directions, half filled with suspicion and fear, and the other half something deeper. A strange ache, almost guilt. After the girl left, he spoke again. "Why didn't you ask for money, or family rights, or attention?" She turned back and said, "Because I don't need any of that. I just needed to know who she was." "What kind of woman she became, what kind of life she built. I wanted to see it, once. He stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. She looked so much like his late wife. Not just in the eyes, but the way she stood, the way she spoke with care. The silence between them held the weight of years lost. And for the first time, he didn't see a stranger standing in front of him. He saw a hidden chapter. A secret his wife had carried alone. He saw pain. He saw truth, and it shook him. The next morning felt heavier than usual. The house was quiet, but not in the peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that followed a storm. The man sat alone in the living room, holding a cup of tea that had gone cold. He hadn't slept all night. Her words kept echoing in his head. They are my sisters. I don't need anything. I just wanted to see where she lived. It didn't make sense. Why would his wife hide something so big? A daughter? Before they met? Had she been too scared to tell him? Ashamed? Or maybe she thought it would change how he saw her. And maybe it would have, but now it was too late to ask. The only person who could answer was gone. And the one who remained, he had pushed her away. Upstairs, his daughters were still asleep. But their soft footsteps soon came down the stairs. The younger one rubbed her eyes and asked, "Where's she gone, the kind lady?" He didn't answer. The older girl said, "She forgot to pack her book, the one she reads to us." The man looked at them. He saw their sad faces. They didn't know anything. They only knew they had lost someone who made them feel safe, someone who gave them warm food, gentle hugs, and bedtime stories that made them dream. Later that day, he drove to the address she had written on her job application. It was a shared building, small and plain. The hallway smelled of damp clothes and old paint. He knocked on the door. No answer. He left a note under the door. "Please come back. I need to talk to you." He didn't expect her to return. Why would she? He had shouted at her, doubted her, treated her like a stranger when she was part of the past he had never known. But the next morning, she was there. She stood at the gate, holding the same cloth bag she always carried. She didn't look angry, just tired. He walked out to meet her. "I'm sorry," he said, for the first time in years. She looked down, saying nothing. "I was scared," he added. "Scared because I didn't understand. Scared of what I didn't know." She nodded. "I understand. I've lived with fear too." He opened the gate and asked softly, "Will you come inside?" She hesitated, then stepped forward. The girls saw her and ran to her. "You came back!" They shouted. The man watched as she hugged them gently, like she had always done. Not as a mother, not even fully as a sister, just someone who truly cared. They sat in the living room. He finally asked the questions he'd been holding. "How long were you searching for her?" "Since I turned 18, she said. "It took years to find anything. She used a different name after leaving the orphanage. It was only after she passed away that I found a photo in a news article from your company's charity event. She was standing next to you. That's how I knew where to start." "And why didn't you come to me directly?" "Because I didn't know what kind of man you were. And I didn't want to bring shame to her memory. I only wanted to see where she lived. I thought if I got a job in the house, I'd get a small chance to feel closer." He looked at her hands. They were rough, tired. Not the hands of someone who had come to take, but someone who had worked quietly just to be near a piece of her past. His voice was lower now. "Why didn't she come back for you?" She paused. "She tried, once, but life pulled her in another direction. I don't blame her. I just always hoped." The girls returned with a drawing they made. It had 3 people in it, 2 little girls, and the housekeeper in the middle, holding their hands. The man looked at it and smiled, though tears were in his eyes. "They see you as family already," he said. "I don't want to confuse them." She whispered. He looked at her. "Maybe they're not confused. Maybe it's me who needed time to understand." She looked up, Surprised, he nodded. You were never a danger to them. You were protecting them in your own quiet way. That's something I didn't see before. She blinked fast, holding back tears. Thank you. No, he replied. Thank you for coming into this house and not forcing your truth. For waiting, for caring. And in that moment, something shifted, not just in the room, but inside the man's heart. This woman, once seen as a stranger, now felt like a missing piece of a puzzle he never knew was incomplete. Asterisk in the days that followed, everything in the house began to feel different. Not louder, not brighter, just warmer. The man still struggled with the truth. It wasn't something he could fully accept overnight. Every time he passed by the family photos on the wall, he saw his late wife's smile and wondered how much pain she had hidden behind it. He tried not to feel angry with her. Maybe she had planned to tell him one day. Maybe she thought there would always be time. But life had ended too early. Now, the housekeeper, no, the young woman who called his wife her mother, was moving through the house not just as staff, but as someone known. The daughters followed her around like shadows, always asking her to read, to sing, or simply to sit with them. She never refused. She never asked for more. One evening, while cleaning the study, she found an old box tucked beneath the shelf. She brought it to the man and asked if she should open it. He hesitated, then nodded. Go ahead. Inside were letters. Dozens of them, some written by his wife before their marriage. Others after. One envelope was different. It had no name. Just the word forgive. She opened it slowly. Her hands trembled. Inside was a letter from his wife. A letter she had written, but never sent. To the one I left behind. I think of you every day. I wonder how tall you've grown, what your laugh sounds like now, if you still hold your teddy bear when you sleep. I was young, afraid, and alone. They told me you'd be better off, but my heart broke the day I gave you away. I hope you're safe. I hope you're loved. I hope one day you find me and know that I never stopped loving you. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She handed the letter to the man. He read it slowly, his eyes filling with emotion. He had never seen this letter before. It must have been written in secret and hidden away. I didn't know, he said quietly. She nodded. Neither did I. They sat in silence for a long while. No more words were needed. That night, as the family sat together for dinner, the daughters asked if their new friend could sit at the table with them, not in the kitchen. The man looked at the woman. She looked unsure. He said gently, Please, stay. She sat with them, quiet but thankful. The younger girl grabbed her hand under the table. The older one leaned her head on her shoulder. The woman smiled for the first time in a long time. After dinner, they watched old home videos. The girls laughed at baby clips of themselves. Then, one video appeared on screen that none of them remembered seeing before. It was recorded on a rainy afternoon. His wife sat by the window, pregnant at the time. She looked out, speaking softly to the camera. I hope, wherever you are, you know you are still in my heart. I hope you find happiness. And I hope you forgive me one day. The woman stared at the screen, her breath caught in her throat. That message, was it for her? The man paused the video. No one said a word. Later, that night, he walked into the guest room where she stayed. He stood by the door. I'd like to know more about you, he said. What your life was like growing up. She nodded. It wasn't easy, but I survived. He stepped inside. I'd like my daughters to know your story too. When you're ready. I will, she whispered. When they're ready. He sat on the edge of the couch. You've been more than a housekeeper. More than a guest. And you've done it all with kindness, even when I didn't deserve it. You were protecting them, she said. So were you. For the first time, they looked at each other not with questions, but understanding. That night, he added something to the photo wall. Not a new picture, but an old one. The one where a little girl stood in the corner, her eyes unsure. He placed it in a frame right beside the photo of his wife. The house had held many memories. Now it held something more truth. The next morning, the girls ran through the hallway, laughing. The woman followed behind, calling gently, "Slow down, you'll trip." The man stood by the stairs, watching. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like something was missing. He felt whole. Weeks passed, and the woman no longer felt like a guest in the house. She moved quietly through the rooms like she always had, but now there was no fear in her steps, no reason to hide. She was still careful, still humble, but now she smiled. More. The daughters followed her everywhere. She helped them with their homework, walked them to school when the driver was busy, and waited outside their music lessons when their father had meetings. She never tried to take anyone's place. She simply showed up again and again, with care, with patience, with love. The man noticed everything. Her calm way of handling the girls, how she stayed awake when one had a fever, how she sat by there, sighed during storms, telling stories to keep them from being afraid. Slowly, something inside him began to change. One afternoon, he invited her to sit with him in the garden. The sun was low, and the flowers were blooming in soft colors. He handed her a small box. She looked at it, confused. "What is this?" "Open." "It," he said. Inside was a pendant. Simple, silver. A small photo of his late wife on one side, and on the other, a recent photo of the 3 girls, the daughters. "And her. I had it made," he said. "You belong in this picture." She stared at it, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he said gently. "I was wrong to push you away. I was afraid. But you've shown me what love looks like, even without asking for anything back." She looked up at him. "Thank you for giving me a place." "It's not just a place," he said. "It's a family, and it's yours too." That weekend, they did something none of them expected. They took a family photo together. At first, she stood at the edge, not wanting to take up space. But the little girls pulled her into the middle, one on each side, holding her hands. The man stood behind them, resting a hand lightly on her shoulder. The photographer said, "Smile." They did, and it felt real. Later, the photo was framed and placed beside the others in the hallway. Anyone walking through the house could now see her there, not as a helper, not as staff, but as part of the family story. One evening, while the girls were painting, the older one asked, "Are you going to live with us forever?" She smiled. "As long as you'll have me." The younger one said, "You're like our big sister." She blinked back emotion. "That's the best thing anyone's ever called me." The man watched this from a distance. He didn't say anything, but deep inside, he felt peace, a kind of peace he hadn't felt since his wife passed away. He still missed her, every day. But now, that pain wasn't so sharp, because a piece of her was still here, right in front of him. Alive, kind, and gentle. One morning, he called the woman into the study again. "I've been thinking," he began. "You deserve more than a room in the back. I'd like you to stay here permanently, not as a worker, as part of the family." She looked at him, stunned. You mean like adoption?" "If you want it," he said. "No pressure. But I want it to be official. I want the girls to know that you're truly their sister, not just in words." Her lips trembled. "You'd do that? For me? I'm doing it for all of us." She nodded slowly, then firmly. "Yes." The paperwork took time, but no one minded. They were already a family in every way that mattered. The daughters helped her choose her new room, bigger, sunnier, closer to theirs. They painted the walls together, chose curtains, and filled it with flowers and books. It became a space full of light, full of life. On the day the papers were signed, they had a small dinner at home. No big speeches, no cake. Just laughter, good food, and warm hearts. The man raised a toast with water in his glass. To unexpected family, the girls giggled, she smiled. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged fully. Completely. Not because of blood, but because love had chosen her. And in that grand house, once filled with silence and cold marble floors, there now echoed the sounds of laughter, footsteps, and stories told late into the night. Because once, a man had shouted in fear, but now his heart had spoken in love.